Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni muli wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jadley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We're coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We're so delighted that you're joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show in the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, Ghana, Good Pods, wherever you find your podcast. Our guest today is returning to the show, Paolo Mazzucato. He is here to celebrate the absolutely true story of La Befana. Before we invite Paolo back into the studio, we want to let you know we have a brand new Reading with Your Kids certified great read. It's Please Don't Tell Cooper He's a Dog, written by Michelle Lander Feinberg. We love this book. And we want you to get ready to have your heart melted by Cooper, a gentle, loyal, and brave dog who is confused about how dogs behave. Please Don't Tell Cooper He's a Dog is a wonderful story that can be read to the entire family. This amazing picture book is filled with beautiful rhymes on each page and will certainly brighten up any reading experience. The story follows Cooper, a lovable dog who overcomes the cruelty of the world to find a nice home. Cooper was found at a shelter, picked up as a stray, but now lives with a loving and caring family. His 5 human siblings who shower him with attention and love all the time. Cooper thinks he's a human. He likes to do all the things humans like to do. He doesn't like to chase balls or sticks. He prefers eating from a plate rather than dining from a dog bowl. Read the book to follow Cooper and his amazing adventures all around the world. This incredible story will be a fantastic addition to any family library. You can read our entire review at our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Joining us right now from Orange County and beautiful California. Our guest is returning to the show. We love when our guest is here. He's here to celebrate a beautiful new illustrated storybook. It's called La Befana. Please welcome back to the show, Paolo Mazzucato. Hey, Paolo, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited to have you back on. I love you. You're not able to see that, but I'm looking into Paolo's office, and there are swords behind him, and it looks like movie posters, and just such a cool little space.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It helps when you're surrounded by fantasy. When you're writing stuff that you involve yourself in the world that you're surrounded with. So It comes a little bit from the imagination, a little bit from your surroundings, and a little bit from your own experience. So.
Yeah. Before we jump into the new storybook, tell us we've had a couple of authors on who've told us. One author told us that a lot of his stories start by asking a question, what if? And Jane Yolen and Jerry Spinelli, they told us their stories, are inspired by the thousands of stories that surround us every moment of every day. We just have to train ourselves to observe them. What about for you? What's your writing process? How does a story come to life?
Well, I think it's probably different for different books and different stories, that sometimes you just have this, you have an idea or a theme that you want to sort of explore. So a story can stem from that idea. What's the best way to get this idea across? Other times it will stem from an actual experience you've had. I mean, I think I remember when we spoke about the gondoliers way back when, the impetus for that story sort of sprang from a trip that I'd taken with my daughters to Venice, where we almost got lost in all the maze, like the labyrinth of passageways and streets and alleyways. So from that experience of almost getting lost at dusk, the whole story sort of sprang. Well, what if there was actually something that happened at dusk? And so the gondoliers sort of sprang from that experience with my daughters and my wife when we were walking around Venice. And then other times, Curious Winter's Night is more of a story that's personal about loss and coping with loss. And that sprang from memories of childhood, memories of what happens when you're in a new place. So it's different from different things. And, of course, with screenwriting, sometimes it's basically the story springs from the person saying, I want to make a story about this and I'll pay you. It's like, oh, okay. Springs from that. Sometimes that's a good way for a story to start too.
Well, I tell you, then I must have a story, because my beautiful wife and I were visiting Costa Rica, and we came out of church one evening, and we had been walking the streets of downtown San Jose for a week, and we were very comfortable. Beautiful, beautiful city. But somehow we took a left when we should have taken a right, and very quickly we found ourselves in a not so lit up part of the city that when we went and asked for directions, we were told, "You're not supposed to be here. Get out of here." So I have to work on that story. But until then, tell us about La Befana.
La Befana. The whole title is The Absolutely True Story of La Befana. And, of course, La Befana is often referred to as the Christmas witch, but she's not really a witch. And I sort of make a point in the story of, it's told from a very interesting point of view. It's told from the point of view of her donkey. So right there, it's a little funny in that way, but she's just an old woman in Italy, and the traditional Befana of the Epiphany season, the Christmas season in Italy, it's one where this woman is visited by the three wise men who are looking for the baby Jesus, and of course she doesn't know where he is, and she doesn't want to follow them, so she just sends them on their way. And later, of course, she decides that was a mistake, and she really wanted to be part of that story. And so she goes off looking for them. And so the traditional story of La Befana is one where this old woman, who was visited by the three magi, the three wise men, goes out looking for them and looking for the baby that's been born, trying to see if she can find them again. She never does. But on her way, she starts leaving little gifts at everyone's door, because at that time, the tradition, of course, was before you go in the house, you leave your shoes out in front of the house. And so there's all these houses and all these villages that she's going through, and there's the shoes. So she leaves a little gift in everyone's shoe. And that, of course, evolves into the stockings over the fireplace. And so many of the traditions that we celebrate in different cultures for Christmas have their origins in other cultures' traditions. So I know in Spain they also celebrate the three magi, the Epiphany, more so than the Santa Claus. And Germany, of course, is San Nicolao. They have their Santa Claus traditions. So it's interesting how different cultures will have different traditions for different characters even. But a lot of the similar ideas come through in their stories as well. Even the whole thing about coming down the chimney. In the Befana story, people are wondering how she got in the house, and then they say, oh, she must have come down the chimney. So, all these little things that we have incorporated into our Santa Claus tradition have origins, or at least counterparts in different cultures and their different traditions. And the Befana is basically just that traditional Italian story.
Yeah, I love that, and I love that you've created a children's book that reminds us or teaches us for the first time that this tradition that we are celebrating here, that we think is so sacred and just celebrated all over the world, well, maybe it's not celebrated all over the world. Maybe we've borrowed bits and pieces, and let's dig down a little bit further to see the origins of, and find out why we're doing different things. I think that's something that we don't do enough of. There are all sorts of traditions, and we got to do this. We got to do this. Why? I don't know. Just because we've always done it.
Yeah, and I think it's wonderful how we all embrace different cultures, even if we don't realize we are. Sometimes we're incorporating those traditions into our own, and so the tradition becomes richer because it's not just a an idea that came from one group of people. It's something that they incorporated ideas from this group and from that group, and it becomes a wonderful celebration. And I think that in doing so, we are embracing the universality of the theme of Christmas, which is certainly one of doing for others and for that love and peace and harmony that we can try to bring to the world. So it's all a good way to get to that one thematic idea, is that the idea of even the idea of giving gifts is that idea that we're trying to, in the story of La Befana, she's preparing, dried nuts and dates and different fruits for herself. And when she decides to go out and look for the newborn baby, she takes that with her. And so the gifts that she's that she's giving out to and putting in the shoes and stockings of all these children is something that she prepared for herself, but now she's willing to give to somebody else because she thinks that, this baby's just been born out in the cold. Having a nice snack might be a good thing. So it's that thematic idea of giving is better than just always taking. So, and I think that comes through in different cultures or different Christmas traditions. So whether it's Santa Claus giving gifts on December 24th, the evening of December 24th, or La Befana, who comes on the evening of January 5th. I know in like the northern part of Italy, in Austria, they have the Krampus, which is another character who comes on December 6th, I think. But that's a completely different character. It's more about punishing bad children. So different aspects. But see, even that idea is carried through in the Santa Claus, because what does Santa Claus do with naughty children?
Lump of coal.
They're on the naughty list. So that idea that this is a time of year when there's a reckoning. Are you naughty or nice? That also stems from a lot of different cultures as well. And so Krampus took it, Santa Claus tradition, and the Befana does it too, because what she does is, if there's a naughty child, instead of leaving them nuts and fruits and stuff in their stockings or shoe, she'll leave them a lump of coal or a bunch of broken sticks. So all these traditions sort of have a way of working their way through a lot of different traditions that we celebrate.
Yeah, that's so cool. My beautiful wife is originally from Puerto Rico, and they have a tradition there again on the Feast of the Epiphany. They call it El Día de los Reyes, the Day of the Kings. And their tradition is you take a shoebox and you fill it with grass for the king's camels. And after the camels eat, then they'll leave a little gift. And so we celebrated Christmas, and we also celebrated El Día de los Reyes. And when my son went to kindergarten, he told everybody about this second gift-giving holiday. And suddenly we got all sorts of calls from his classmates' parents going, "What's this thing with the shoebox and the grass? There's snow outside. When are we supposed to find grass? And why do I have to buy another gift?"
That's funny. Yeah. That's sometimes you get the La Befana story she has a donkey that she goes out looking for, and so the tradition there too, just like with the Santa Claus tradition, we leave out cookies and milk. The Befana tradition is we leave out biscotti with a little bit of wine and a carrot for the donkey. So to each his own.
Yeah, I love. I think these traditions. It's really fascinating, and it's especially fun when you're comparing them. And I think with our kids too, it would be really fun when you're comparing the different traditions to say, well, why would folks in Italy put out, a glass of wine and a biscotti, and here in America we put out chocolate chip cookies and a glass of milk? And what do you think? And just getting the kids thinking and being aware of the different cultures and how people are living and the differences and also the similarities that we all share.
Sure. Yeah. And I think it all stems from that simple idea of doing something for somebody else. You're leaving out your milk and cookies or your glass of wine and biscotti and the carrot because you want to thank the person who's bringing you that little bit of joy for the next morning. So when you wake up and you see the little gift that's been brought to you, or on Christmas, or on the 6th when you wake up and see the gift at the Befana, or the Three Kings, or whatever cultural tradition you're celebrating, the idea that they're giving you something and you want to reciprocate with some sort of, you leave out something for them. I think that's also a wonderful tradition for kids to sort of get early on, so that they realize it's not all about gimme, gimme, gimme. Mm-hmm. It's about how can I show my appreciation.
Yeah, so important. I love that your books always have kind of a deeper meaning, something you can really kind of dig into, and I think it's your stories inspire lots of great conversations between families.
Well, thanks. I would hope that there's always a fine line between writing a book that's just too heavy-handed, mm-hmm. And also doing one that is just fluff. But I think there's a place for everything. What I try, the line I try to weave through most of my stories, whether it's the middle grade stories or young adult stories or picture books and storybooks, is certainly sort of take it with a lighter tone. The La Befana, the story of the absolutely true story of La Befana, is sort of woven with a bit of a humorous take. Obviously, I mentioned that it's told from the point of view of a donkey, so right there, it's not the serious tome about giving at Christmas and stuff. It's sort of like the donkey's idea of what's going on and what happened that night so long ago. And he's just relaying the story to you so that you can see that this old woman who at the beginning of the story doesn't want to be bothered. She just wants to eat her minestrone and she wants to go to bed. And then these three guys come knocking at the door. These, she thinks, oh, who are these wise guys? Of course, they're the wise men, right? Mm-hmm. But so the tone is very playful, and it's very much from that point of view of an animal looking at our world and saying, this is what happened. And I don't know, but by the time she eventually decides that she wants to be part of this story and become part of this tradition it becomes a tradition, but she wants to be part of a larger story than her little world of, making her stuff and eating her dinner and going to bed. So she goes out and she participates in this story and becomes part of the story. And I think that's also a very subtle way of saying we have to go out into the world. We have to share our spirit. We have to share our goodwill. Otherwise, what is life? Mm-hmm. So maybe that's deep. Maybe that's, but to me, it's just a story about an old woman who decides that she wants to get out there and she wants to be, she wants to help out in some way and spread her little. She's not giving out, these, PlayStations. Mm-hmm. She's not giving out big gifts and stuff. She's just leaving a little bag of nuts and a little bag of, a tangerine here or a piece of coal if you're bad. But the point is that she's trying to give something to children who perhaps didn't have much. Mm-hmm. Certainly the idea that the baby Jesus was out there, shivering in a stable, and the three kings were going to find the baby and bestow on him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. She doesn't have gold. She doesn't have frankincense. She doesn't have myrrh. What she has is something to feed the baby and something to basically show that they're appreciated and that they're loved. And that, in the end, is as good as gold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the whole message of getting out there and sharing your love and spreading your love, I think that this is a really timely message, because while a lot of us are just so anxious to get out, we're tired of being locked up and got to get the mask off, I want to get out there and live, there are a lot of people who've been like, I'm not sure if I'm ready. I never liked being locked up when it first happened, but I'm kind of comfortable here, and I'm going to need a big push to get myself back out there.
Yeah. And I think that, the story also supports that idea that we live in a global community. It's not just about us. It's not just about me sitting at home and doing things that are just for me. Mm-hmm. The old woman is at home making her soup, and she invites the three wise men in and gives them a bowl of soup and then sends them on their way. And then she eventually goes out to share what she's made with others. So the idea that we need to go out into the world is also one where we need to go out there with respect for the things that are happening in our society. So certainly this is a strange time for going out there or for participating in the world at large. But if we do so with the understanding that it's not all about us, it's about a global community, or our local community, or our state community, or our country, our world. So we do these things with an understanding that it's not always about what's good for us, but how we can contribute to a larger community. That makes it an important thing for us to do.
It really is important, and unfortunately, and that's a message that kids need to hear. It's a message we need to hear. Unfortunately, too often we hear the opposite message. You know, you deserve this. You deserve that. You know, think for yourself. I think all of us, especially as parents, have to remind our kids that we are part of a bigger human family, and we have responsibilities to each other.
I think we get that. That's the best thing about literature and children's books and middle grade books and young adult books. And whenever a child reads, they're opening their mind to different ways of seeing things. So it's not always about, the instant gratification of playing a game or watching TV and getting that from a program. But when you're reading a book, I'm trying to think of an example, like The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings. There's a notion in there that I always thought was great, that on the birthday of Bilbo Baggins, the tradition was within the Hobbit community that the person whose birthday was going to give a gift to all the people that came to his party, as opposed to in our culture, it's generally accepted that people coming to the party bring the gifts for the birthday person. But that notion that the birthday person is supposed to share something with his guests, I thought was a great notion. And I think that because it's in a story that a child, or even, obviously you don't have to read The Lord of the Rings as a child, but when we read things and it opens our mind to a different way of seeing things and a different way of thinking, oh, I never thought about it that way, that I should perhaps share something with someone else on my birthday. It can become part of another tradition. And while I was not successful in getting my daughters to give gifts on their birthday, the idea that it's an idea more than anything, and the idea that we should be gracious not only in accepting gifts but also in giving gifts, I think is one of those wonderful things that we can get from literature and we can get from a story, whether it's a book like Lord of the Rings or just a simple picture storybook about an old woman who gives gifts to the children around the neighborhood. I mean, these are all different ideas, and ideas are wonderful things when we can act on them and we can incorporate them into our lives, incorporate them into our own traditions.
Well, we're really happy that you are willing to share your gift in creating beautiful stories like La Befana. Can you tell everybody where they can go to learn more about you, learn more about this great new book, and all of the work that's come from your mind?
Sure. Well, I have there's the website of www.writer.mazzucato.org is sort of the place where I put notices of all the stuff, that whether it's films or plays or stories or books. And so that already has a page for La Befana, and it's coming out in November, but it's available for pre-order there. And of course, eventually it'll be on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and all that place. That's primarily where to go. Bepibooks.com, which is BEPI books.com, is also it's more of a bookstore type thing. That's an independent sort of operation. And then, of course, I haven't done much film work over the course of COVID, but my past film work is on the Internet Movie Database, imdb.com. So
awesome. Well, we've had a great time speaking about perhaps a new tradition to add to your family holidays this season. The name of the beautiful new illustrated storybook is The Absolutely True Story of La Befana. We've been speaking to the author, Paolo Mazzucato. Hey, Paolo, thanks so much for being back with us.
Well, thanks for having me back. It's always fun to come and chat.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Jody Meltzer. She's returning to the show to celebrate Goodnight Star, whoever you are, a Reading with Your Kids certified great read. Hey, speaking of certified great read, if you are the author of a fantastic children's book, you probably heard at the beginning of the show that Michelle Lander Feinberg's picture book, Please Don't Tell Cooper He's a Dog, is our latest Reading with Your Kids certified great read. If you are finding it difficult to get your book noticed in the world, we can help you. Our Reading with Your Kids certified great read has had dozens and dozens of authors like Jody Meltzer and Michelle Lander Feinberg and Lori Orlinsky and so many others. And we would love to help you too. Please go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com, click on the authors Click Here button at the top of the page, scroll on down to Certified Great Reads. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, want to start by thanking our guest, Paolo Mazzucato. Please be sure to check out The Absolutely True Story of La Befana. Also want to thank my team, Alejandro Doherty, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Michael Murphy. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.